Today marks the 12th annual Bell Let's Talk Day, and all day on CB24, we've been having important discussions around mental health and how to help end the stigma. Tonight, we want to take a closer look at youth mental health. It's been an especially challenging 2 years for children and teens in this country and all around the world, and experts say isolation has had a huge impact on their wellness.
To discuss, we welcome to CP24 tonight Steve Doherty, Executive Director at Youth Without Shelter, and Deborah, who joins us also with her support worker tonight, Kim Evans. Thanks to all of you. We're so happy to have this discussion. Deborah, let's start with you. Tell us a bit more about what the past 2 years have been like for you.
The past 2 years have been very difficult. It's very challenging and different for me. But I feel like it's giving me a lot of time to focus on myself and, get to know myself.
Steve, Youth Without Shelter has had to shut down 20 of your 53 beds due to the pandemic. This at a time when so many people are relying on that support, so many young people who need this. What kind of demand are you seeing?
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, our demand hasn't changed. We're getting phone calls every day, and every day we're having to turn people away because we simply don't have beds available. And as you can imagine, what the pandemic has done. We've already got a high level of young people dealing with severe and problematic mental health issues, and you add in the idea of homelessness, and it's added a lot of pressures to the young people that we support here every day.
So, Kim, tell us a bit about your role in all of this and some of the struggles that you're hearing about.
So I'm the Stay in School Program Coordinator, and what we do is we typically have 20 beds to house youth attending full-time school. With the pandemic, we only have 14 beds. We have a waiting list, and the great thing about the Stay in School program is that it removes all the barriers, financial, it provides Presto cards, it provides hygiene supplies so that the youth can get to school and just focus on school because they're dealing with so much trauma, homelessness being one of them. And we try to provide a safe environment so that they can start to heal and potentially thrive.
They're experiencing so much trauma. I think it's really important that you talk about the trauma piece. Steve, stats suggest homeless youth in this country, they're more susceptible to mental health issues. That wouldn't be a surprise. Are the resources available for youth in this country enough?
You know what? We can always say more, and I think we do need more. We've got a shortage of pediatric psychiatry support and qualified therapists across Ontario. But this isn't a problem that is just exclusive to Ontario. We need more mental health supports. One of the best things to do, and I applaud the provincial government for more than doubling the funding of getting mental health supports into schools. Of course, that was right before the pandemic. So it's another reason that it's so important that young people attend school, because that's where a lot of the frontline supports are for people that help to identify issues in their lives so that they can be connected to services.
And Deborah, tell us more about that experience of not being able to go to school every day anymore throughout the pandemic.
Not being able to go to school has been very different for me. It's been a lot of transitions over the past 2 years of being virtual, then in person, then virtual again, and it just messes with your routine and the pattern and your lifestyle.
Do you feel like you got the support you needed while you were away from the classroom?
I'm eternally grateful to YWS and the whole program, the SIS and everything. I feel like they've really supported me this past few months to just be able to focus on my school alone because I had a lot of other things going on, and I think they really helped and supported me.
Mm-hmm. Deborah, how difficult was it asking for help, recognizing that you needed some help? And from time to time, we all do. So many young people and adults struggle with that. So how has that sort of shaped your life, asking for that help?
I'm Nigerian. I'm not a Canadian. I recently just moved to Canada, and I'm being introduced to a different society, a different lifestyle. It was really hard because I never knew who to trust. I always had my family, and when that stopped being an option for me, and I had to go elsewhere, that was really hard for me. I I refrained from doing that as much as I could until I had no other choice. And when I did reach out, Canada or Canadians they've never disappointed me till now. They've always come through for me. They've always taken my issues as theirs, and I'm really surprised and thankful for it.
And Steve, you talked about homelessness earlier, and we know that so many people have lost their jobs during the pandemic, and as a result, also had trouble finding housing during the pandemic. So how has this made matters worse?
Well, you know what? We get so many of our young people, they're out, they're doing great, they're finding employment, they're graduating, and they're moving into entry-level positions, and the problem is the pandemic hits. Many of them lost their jobs, and that just adds to the stress of being able to afford their rent and their plans moving forward and their savings and their goals. And there's where our outreach team and our aftercare and our housing program really stepped up, and people like Kim and our other frontline staff who have stepped up to really help with those supports. And sometimes people are coming back. We've seen an increased use of our food bank and our clothing bank throughout the pandemic. And it, you know what, thank goodness we were there, and thank goodness they trusted us enough to come back and ask for that help.
And Kim, as a frontline worker, what do you hear from youth every day, and what do you tell them when they're struggling?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just listening, validating what they're going through, making the environment safe for them so that they can be heard. The biggest thing I think right now is this overwhelming, lingering feeling that there's no end, that school is not typical. They're not going in classes. They're not having the socialization. They're just needing the support. And the great thing is that we have that support. We have a new mental health program at the shelter that provides access for our current residents as well as our past residents, so that they have access to support around the clock. And I think that's the important thing, is just being able to be there and to be supportive. I think for our SIS youth, they're able to stay with us and finish their education. And because they have the time, and I think that's a key point, they're not rushed, and they have the resort, they're able to access supports and resources so that they can start to address all the things that are going on in their life on top of the pandemic.
And Deborah, just want to give you the last word here. To any friends, colleagues, family members, classmates of yours who might be struggling right now, what do you say to them?
I say to them that there's always a way out, and thankfully there are YWS and other programs like this for us, for people to heal and overcome things that they're going through.
Well, we applaud you for taking the steps that you took. Thank you so much for sharing your story tonight. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Steve Doherty, Deborah, and Kim Evans, thank you.